Most people think nostalgia is a longing for the past, but what if it was actually a survival tool for getting through present change?
You look like you're a hostage.
Present change. SOS. Okay. Most people think nostalgia is a longing for the past, but what if it was actually a survival tool for going through change? I'm Taylor.
I'm Becca.
And this is Hold That Thought.
In a world that moves too fast to process, Hold That Thought puts words to the thoughts and contradictions you carry, but rarely hear spoken out loud.
In every episode, we explore the ideas, relationships, and invisible forces that impact how people move through the world and unpack why certain experiences change us more than we might expect.
Today, we're exploring nostalgia because nostalgia has a strange reputation. We tend to think of it as sentimental, backwards looking, maybe even a little indulgent, a feeling that pulls us away from the present and into an idealized version of the past.
But psychologists have discovered something surprising. Nostalgia tends to appear in times of our biggest change, during periods of uncertainty and transition, moving to a new city, graduating, turning 30.
In other words, nostalgia often appears when life is asking us to become something new. What if nostalgia isn't a sign that we're stuck in the past? What if it's the mind's way of helping us stay connected to ourselves while everything else around us is changing?
So if you've ever looked at an old photo or heard a familiar song or found yourself missing a version of your life that you thought you'd left behind, we welcome you to come into this conversation with us to explore the purpose of nostalgia. Hold that thought.
You do it.
Hold that thought. Hi, Becky.
Hi, Titi.
Welcome back.
Welcome back, everyone. We're adjusting the setup with each episode, so...
Last week, we moved the couch in my apartment.
Sent you into a tailspin.
It sent me into a tailspin. I was like, am I OCD?
You were like, it's not flush. The couches are not lined up.
It wasn't flush.
It wasn't flush, but yeah.
You were like, we can do this every week. And I was like, yeah, we could do that every week. And then ultimately, I think it's good. We're not.
No, and that's a boundary for you, and that's okay. We have spent like the past week apart.
I was in Denver visiting my sister.
Your sister?
It was very fun. Went to Zion with her and went hiking for 2 whole days, just the two of us. And it was really remarkable. We were staying in this tiny home. This couple had just moved from Atlanta, bought a pre-made campground.
Wow.
And we're just fixing it up, turning it around. And there was a tiny home on the campsite, and that's where we were staying.
So fun.
It was really fun to chat with them and hear their story. They'd left Atlanta a year ago and moved into their camper and have been traveling the country for a year and a half together, figuring out where they wanted to build their campsite, and had landed on this place. And it's in the middle of Arizona, night sky for days, literally just desert. So we had a lot of fun staying there. And then we went on 2 amazing hikes in Zion, the Narrows and Angel's Landing. If any listeners have ever gone to Zion or have any interest, message, because my sister developed an incredibly good itinerary. We're 4 years apart, but in a lot of ways she was like kind of the older sister in this. We kind of genuinely do flip back and forth in terms of roles. I never feel like, oh, I have older sister syndrome.
Yeah.
But because we switch roles, and this time it was very much like she was kind of taking care of me because she had gotten the rental car and like found where we were staying, and she's super outdoorsy and good at leading trips. She's a tripper. So she led us in an amazing weekend.
So fun.
So fun.
What was a feature of the van or like the tiny home that you liked the most? I love that hidden compartment kind of things that they do in those.
So you walked up this little ladder, and then there was a massive hole between where the ladder was and where the bed was. Like the bed came out on a platform farther than the rest of the floor. Okay. So right next to the bed was basically like a hole down to the first floor. Okay. But I did love how cozy the bed was, tucked under this eave on this platform right up against the ceiling. It was so cozy.
Yeah.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was good. It was eventful. How much to share? He was like, are you going to feature me in this episode? And I was like, I just had to meet you on a plane, honey. I don't think I can be representing all of my love interests. I had a great weekend. I went to Napa on a party bus with friends, and I was the only non-native Spanish speaker in the group of like 15.
Practice?
I did practice, and I listened very intently.
Good for you.
The Uruguayans are hard for me to understand, more so than like the Peruvian I met or the Mexican.
Argentinian accents are very hard for me to understand.
I think they're similar, right?
To Uruguay.
Because it's the Rio de, what's that? Plata de something is between Uruguay and Argentina. I don't know.
It's a lot of like the Uruguayans use that?
Yeah.
In the accent?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's why I always said Toyota. Took me out. Toyota.
And you had a little dalliance.
Dalliance?
With someone fun.
What's dalliance?
Like a little dance, a little flirtatious dance.
A dalliance. I love that. Is that like Old English?
I don't know if it's Old English. A casual romantic or sexual relationship.
Oh, look at you.
A romantic fling.
I had a dalliance indeed. And it was so much fun.
It's also meaning the act of dawdling, trifling, or wasting time instead of working.
In a way. Yeah. I know podcasters talk about like
Sexual?
Parents don't listen. I'm like, Blythe, Charlie, Jean, Eric. I named your parents first.
You really don't want
Tune out. Duty off.
Duty's our loyal Instagram commenter.
I'm obsessed with her.
I know.
We're starting a new miniseries, and this was inspired by an Instagram post I saw. I'll put that in here in the edit. It said, what was it? Like, when nothing else could, they did, and we called them weeds. And I loved that idea. Similar to our In Plain Sight miniseries, it seemed to draw on things in our lives that are overlooked or that have hidden purpose that goes unacknowledged, that we maybe misunderstand or label as negative and maybe even insidious in the case of weeds, like these things that
You can't quite
sprout
quit.
up. You can't quite, yeah, exactly. Or like sprout up over and over again despite trying to eradicate them. And I loved that idea. And I feel like as soon as we started thinking about what episodes could look like under this umbrella, we got so energized.
Yeah.
So I'm just really excited.
I mean, who knows where the miniseries is going to go, but I think a lot of our early episodes are going to be around emotional imprints that we think of as weeds and actually serve a really deep and valuable purpose. I think that's also telling. Like, we're just really excited to talk about our internal worlds that we often label as bad or maladaptive or hard, and like learning from those.
I love the idea of examining that which we label as maladaptive. I feel bad for people who don't believe in evolution because I'm like, you must view all the, I mean, maybe not, but my assumption is that you might view the negative attributes that we possess in our psyches or bodies, whatever, as purposeless. Like there's not, you can't tie that necessarily to its reason for being in the same way you can when you acknowledge evolution and say, there's a reason why this trait or this experience that we have as humans has stuck around for millennia, centuries.
I toggle between that. Like, I think when we were first talking about this podcast, I was so excited to put modern day thoughts and emotions and experiences and track them back to their reason, because it makes me feel less alone or less like confused by them. And at the same time, it can sometimes take away the spiritual element of the human experience if we overly index on that. So, but I love it. So it's kind of like a dual-sided thing. Like, this is a bit of a tangent, but last week got into a conversation with two people about how this grand search for love, and I think this could be a whole other episode, is really only possibly a thing in the past few hundred years. Because if you think about the way early humans existed in these small tribes, like, you had probably 20 people to choose from.
Bill.
Exactly. And like,
Or Susie if you're spicy.
but we all have internalized this like search for love and your partner for life as this like very spiritual thing, which I think it is.
Yeah.
But we can't necessarily trace that current human experience to our early fundamental ancestors.
Right.
So I just think it's interesting. I want to hold space for both things, the mapping onto evolutionary meaning and also the ephemeral, can't be explained part of being human.
Agreed.
Okay, so our first topic, our first emotion of this mini-series is nostalgia, like we said at the top of the episode. What was your conception of nostalgia before researching this episode?
I identify as a very nostalgic person, very sentimental, sappy. And to me, those feel linked. Thinking fondly of the past, it's a bittersweet feeling for me. It's simultaneously cozy and fun, and I love watching old videos on my phone of our friends or times in college or fun trips. Also, I was talking about this with a gentleman this weekend about how I kept meticulous monthly playlists when I was in college. And when I listen to those playlists, I can feel viscerally what I felt at that period of time. I also famously listened to 3 songs on repeat when I was reading The Hunger Games in high school, and that was Drop It Low, Down on Me, Tonight We Are Young, and there's one other I can't remember. And it's like so random, like such a sign of the times. Oh, this was middle school.
So funny you say that, because I listened to I was obsessed with the Noah Kahn Stick Season album when I was reading the first book of Akatar. So listening to All My Love, I am within the love story of
straight into Rice Hand's
arms. And same for when I was reading the first Twilight book in middle school, had John Mayer on repeat in the background. So moody.
So moody.
So good.
So brooding. The reason I was listening to those songs, one was because those were like my hyperfixation at the time, but I consciously chose to listen to the songs while I was reading because I knew that the movies were coming out and I didn't want to forget how I pictured Peeta and Katniss originally.
That is
worked
so
at first.
Fascinating, Becky. Had you done research on that?
Time.
Or you just knew that was going to work?
I just had a feeling because I had experienced some version of that sensation in the past.
So smart. How long did that stick?
I mean, as soon as I saw, what's his name? Josh Hutcherson.
You were like,
it was out the window.
Peeta's gone.
Yeah. It's a good idea.
It's a really good idea.
You and I both had this excitement around the idea that it could serve this deeper purpose. So I think in researching its utility, I found that to be true.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to talk about it.
And it's interesting because there has been so much recent research on nostalgia within the social science space, which is also very hard as a domain of research because you are doing so much research on subjective experiences.
Yeah.
But I think also, especially nostalgia, which to your point has this subtle combination or this combination of subtle sadness and happiness and longing and gratitude. Like it's a secondary emotion is what they call it because it is not made up of your primary reactions of anger, happiness, sadness. It is a real like color wheel of many, and it's so complex, and that makes it even harder to substantiate. But I will say there's been a ton of research done on nostalgia, which was fun to dig into. Doctors and psychologists did not always consider it a good thing. They thought of it often as staying stuck in the past, and it was associated with being unable to adjust to new realities or changes. Nostalgia as a concept first was coined with research done on soldiers from Switzerland who were nostalgic for their homes when they were posted far away and experienced loneliness and dread. So for a long time, it was associated with mental illness, melancholy, anxiety, depression, sleep disorders tied to these soldiers that were first presenting it. And I think we'll get into in a little bit, we'll challenge that. But because of that initial origin, that's where the word nostalgia comes from, nostos and algia. In ancient Greek, nostos is home and algia is pain. So it was literally translating to homesickness. And that's how they were articulating what these soldiers were experiencing.
Wow.
It's so funny to hear back about these early studies and what these researchers were positing. At one point, they were like, it's just the Swiss. They're prone to this. Something about it. Those dang cowbells they can't get out of their head. Like, they literally thought that it was just a plaguing Swiss people. Yeah.
And the only prescription is more cowbell. My family loves that quote.
Cowbell.
I always picture Will Ferrell's hairy when I think of that.
Well, I'm picturing his hairy belly too. It took a while actually for homesickness and nostalgia to split in definition. Over the past 300 years since it was first coined, there's been drift, and that definition has really expanded, and the concept of homesickness and nostalgia has split. There's overlap, but nostalgia is very much understood as its own unique thing.
It's so sad to imagine times where these very, as we perceive them, human emotions like nostalgia were made you othered or were viewed as these weeds.
Yeah.
That really needed to be extracted. And how would you describe, like, what's the word I'm looking for there?
Pathologized.
Yeah. Exactly. I would have been labeled the craziest mofo in the village.
You'd be the village crazy woman
to go take a long walk into the woods and never come back.
Yeah, they would
walk on a short.
They would have shown you. They would have shown you the way out.
Yeah.
Now the definition is so much broader, like I said, and it's typically articulated as a sentimental or wistful longing for the past. So there's that sentimentality that you said.
Yeah, that makes me think of how people talk about something about being on a plane, like looking out the window makes you so think so romantically. That feels like the wistfulness. It's funny. What is it about that liminal space of an airplane that brings that out? You're like absolved of all other human
theory.
Whatever. Yeah, tell me your theory.
But it gets us into already some of the value of nostalgia. So I think we could do that. So, okay, we're going to pull on multiple researchers when we're thinking about who's focusing on nostalgia in the social science space right now. And I want to first pull up Dr. Baccio, who is a PhD psychologist who has dedicated a lot of her career on nostalgia and understanding its value. And her articulation of nostalgia's value is that it helps us unite our sense of self or make a line of continuity between who we were and who we are today. And so I think we can dive a little bit more into this, but I just want to say that speaks to us grappling with these changes in liminal spaces. And so imagine a plane being like, where am I going? Where was I? And that could...
It's a physical representation of that transition.
Yeah. And so I think it makes a lot of sense now that I've done more research on what Dr. Baccio has to say about nostalgia and its role in helping us make sense of ourselves, past, present, and future, that planes, that liminal space might conjure up this wistful longing of trying to make sense of the past. And so we might feel that more.
Yeah. I'm always going through my camera roll on a plane. I'm like looking at my niece and nephew when they were babies and crying.
I love that feeling though, but it's a good feeling. It's tinged for sure, but it's a good feeling.
Yeah.
So just to talk a little bit more about the self-making and this continuity of self, Dr. Baccio says that the thing that ties all hypotheses or explanations of nostalgia together is that nostalgia is an emotional experience that unifies. It can help us unite our sense of who we are, ourself, and our identity over time. Because over time we change constantly, we change in incredible ways. We're not anywhere near the same as we were when we were 3 years old. But nostalgia motivates us to remember the past in our life and helps us to unite that authentic self and remind us of who we are and compare that to how we feel today. This gives us also a sense of who we want to be down the road in the future.
Okay.
So it's a mirror or a way, it's a tool through which to interrogate and look back on ourselves and pull that past self into our present self and then forward into the future.
Okay. Interesting. Like the temporal evolution there.
Yeah.
It touches on all. And I think the pathologizing of it in history partly was probably related to the fact that it was viewed as this rumination over what had occurred in the past without an understanding of its utility in the present and future.
Yeah.
People have differing opinions on whether it's helpful to examine that which occurred before. That's why some people are adamantly against therapy because they're like, what's that going to do for me? Without an understanding of how it can serve you in the present and the future, it seems to land flat. And like hold little promise.
I was reflecting on this because I often feel nostalgia for harder times in a way that softens those harder times. So
COVID.
Yeah, like I was thinking about this. There's another psychologist, Dr. Rutledge. He describes himself as an existential psychologist, which I think is cool. He wrote a book titled Past Forward, How Nostalgia Can Help You Live a More Meaningful Life. And he talks a lot in terms of why memories that cause nostalgia might be twinged with sadness. And it's to help make meaning of ourselves and our own continuity in our life, similar to what we were just talking about with Dr. Baccio. But to make meaning of ourselves in our own life, we often need to consider our own growth or the hard things that we had to go through to create this like arc of our own hero journey. But growth requires adversity, right? And like overcoming something, which then follows that like a lot of what we need to form some understanding of ourselves is to ruminate and make meaning of hard things in the past. And nostalgia helps us give or bring our mind back to those hard things, but add a layer of sweetness and be like, oh, look, I got myself through that. Like I did that thing. And so I often look back and I'm like, oh, I was so stressed a year ago about this thing. Yeah. And I look back on it now and I'm like, honey, I'm nostalgic for that time, which means like, oh, that wasn't that bad.
Right.
And that means that I can do anything I'm stressed about now because future self is going to look back and be like, honey, that was fine. I have nostalgia, longing for it.
You long for the time? Or is it like heightened awareness?
It can come off as nostalgia. Like, I guess my point is like, I can feel nostalgia for times that felt hard in a way that I'm surprised that that's how nostalgia
in that
works.
Moment, you never would have imagined there was something redeeming about that
Yes,
time.
Exactly. Thank you for articulating that. Like
you did.
Like, and I think that's really cool because it means that nostalgia is helping me to be like, oh, like it's helping current me look back on my past with some rosiness in a way that I honestly am like totally fine with. And helps current me be comfortable with current me's struggles because I'm like, well, past me is going to be nostalgic for this time.
Totally. I used to, when I was in the big darkness of 2022 to 4, which intersected with my mullet
TBD.
era, I, during that time, would do this exercise in my head of thinking about something in my present day or something that had occurred that I deemed essential to my life and positive.
Woof. You just woofed at your own bark.
Woofed. Yeah, I didn't burp though. I burp like you. Do you know this about me? I burp
like twice a year.
Yeah, it's such a pick me thing to say. But it's true.
I burp like twice a year.
I burp like twice a year. I'm not like other girls.
Current self.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
you
so
would something essential
to
my life, like meeting someone. For example, meeting you. meeting you. In that situation of being in a period of darkness, I could think back to like, okay, in order for me to have met T, what bad in my life had to have happened? And I would do the like butterfly effect, but in reverse to make sense of that harder time, because that allowed me to then transfer that logic onto my current situation of sadness and be like, okay, this then could result in an outcome just as positive and essential to my life. Like I can't imagine life without you. Getting sappy.
Love letter to me.
And so that logic must hold here. This can obviously be like the weaponization of toxic positivity is never ending.
Yeah.
But that's not obviously what we're suggesting here. It's just that we have to make meaning of these negative events in our lives, or at least attempt to find peace within them in order to not stay stuck inside of those darker, sadder emotions.
Yeah. And I think it's interesting because therefore we're turning on its head that nostalgia is actually the tool with which we can make meaning out of those things, not keeping us stuck in the past. Lots of research has been done that nostalgia is the emotion that is called upon when we're trying to make meaning out of our own mortality in our own life. There was a study done where people read an essay that encouraged them to think that life had no meaning. The essay said, there are 7 billion people living on the planet. Take a moment to ponder the question, in the grand scheme of things, how significant are you? Which to some can be a balm and others can be very scary. But to make sense of that, people turn to feelings of nostalgia for relief from any sense of meaninglessness that they might have been experiencing. So I think to this conversation, like the making meaning, the understanding of ourselves, not only within the scope of our own life, but in the scope of all life, nostalgia holds a real role there. Yeah.
Have you seen that classic Home Goods or like TJ Maxx shiplap sign that's like, these are the good old days?
So funny you say that, because Lizzie and I were literally in a biscuit shop called
a biscuit shop.
Biscuit Fix It.
That's your Massachusetts. See last episode.
Biscuit Fix It in
that's a stretch of a
Nevada.
Rhyme. Yep.
Nevada.
I mean, I'm from California.
Oh,
that's how we say it.
How do Nevadians say it?
Nevadans. I don't know. They say Nevada.
Oh, really? Okay.
It's like west versus east.
We were in this biscuit shop and it had one of those, like, these are the good old days. And Liza was like, I know it's cheesy, but I literally love those things so much. And I was like, you know what? It's literally talking to exactly what you're saying. I don't think I will have one up in my house, but I kind of love it. The concept of it. I wish it wasn't made so cheesy.
We have one in Tahoe that's like on Lake Time, huge print. It's very off-brand for my mom. I don't know why we bought it, but
I kind of always thought that you inherited that with the house.
Like the moose not have been purchased by like the Havey and Jarvis family. Yeah, the moose was inherited. I do not claim that death. No. They used to tell me that the other half of the body was on the outside, and I was like, I don't understand because the wall's so thin. How does it fit? So stupid.
Oh, when did you learn?
Probably when I was like 10, maybe a little.
Pretty late.
Pretty late for the logic not to have set in.
Liza's getting a lot of airtime in this episode, but that was like when I told my sister growing up that the mirror in front of my bed, I had a little remote control for the air conditioner and the window unit, and I told her that it was actually a remote for the mirror to turn into a TV. And that when she went to bed, I got to watch TV, and she was so sad, and she was like, please let me do it. And I was like, no.
How much
Mom
of that
and Dad
did
won't
you
let
do
you
as an older sister?
Not very much, but that was a good one.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
You have to flex the
I had to flex a little bit, and I don't remember how long I let her last. We'll ask her to leave a comment.
I feel like younger siblings live to redeem themselves from that era where they were taken advantage of. Like the wrath of younger siblings cannot be overstated.
You're speaking like a younger sibling.
Right. Two of the main thinkers in psychology around nostalgia are these researchers, Tim Wildschut and Konstantin Sadikis. Spelled.
Are you sure it's not Sadikis?
It's not Sadikis, and you know I wanted it to be. Sedikidis.
Sedikidis.
Sedikidis. And they talk about how nostalgia is triggered by discomfort. This is a quote from their research. The model's first tenet, their model of understanding nostalgia, is that discomforting adverse states trigger nostalgia. Nostalgia functions as a balancing feedback mechanism that maintains homeostasis. So basically, the idea, the flow chart of that is that something destabilizes us in our lives. then nostalgia gets activated, and nostalgia then helps restore psychological equilibrium. And the research suggests that nostalgia becomes stronger during periods of real transition, rapid social, technological, or personal change, because it helps restore that sense of stability and continuity
in self a little bit, like throughout the change.
Yeah. Ability to kind of grab a handhold in our lives. Like I saw AI cited a lot, and how the introduction of that huge life-changing technology in our society our lives are changing faster than we can absorb.
Yep. And it's causing this increase in nostalgia.
Yeah.
Historical nostalgia too, which I know we'll get into. Yeah. That's interesting, because you just said something like being in control, getting a handhold. It's a form of like letting us, when the world is passing by us, get in control of our own memories a little bit, and like our own conception of life in a way that helps make things feel more in control.
There's some great thinker that says, like, you can cuff my wrists, but you can never take my memories. Like, you know what I'm talking about?
No, but that's a great quote. Like, literally, that is it.
Fucking Claude. That is a powerful sentiment. It touches on the idea that no matter what external...
Love your Claude voice.
Like oh, Nelson Mandela. I knew I had something here. From his memoir, Long Walk to Freedom, where he said, they could take everything from me except my mind and my heart. I'm kind of getting at that idea.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is.
Or like, you can take my freedom, but you can't take my liberty, which I think was some American revolutionary.
Oh. We touched on this a little bit, but I think because of this rapid pace of societal change, there's a lot of conversation around so much historical nostalgia right now amongst all generations, but very much from our generation for like the early 90s. This part of time we didn't live.
Parents talk about that. I recently said to them, like, do you miss the era where there wasn't internet or fast internet, I guess, or
when it wasn't dial-up?
Don't you miss when you were riding the horse and buggy into the town square? Dad, don't you miss sitting behind Abe Lincoln in class?
So you asked your parents, like, before internet, do you have nostalgia for this time?
And if I had experienced what you have experienced in terms of technological advancement, I'd be talking about that shit all the time. I'd be so annoying about it. Just like how we kind of stereotype older people being like, in my day, whatever. I would be doing that a lot. This is crazy. Even in just the snapshot of my 29 years, it feels crazy. So it must feel that much stranger for people of their generation. But they were like, yeah, it is, but we don't really dwell on that. We just try to keep up.
Well, my hypothesis, not trying to speak for all of our parents' generation, is that our generation is way more worried for the implications for our life than they have to be. So true. Because they're older and they've done more of their life and are transitioning into periods of time where it's okay if they're not like
senescence. No. No, what happened?
I don't know, Beck.
It's okay. It's okay.
Never a dull moment in self-production. Okay. We're back. Becky's back. If you haven't, she was gone for a little bit and now she's back.
This happens.
You missed her face. I know. The years of our life that are impacted by this are greater than our parents.
Yeah. Ojalá.
As in, yeah.
I hope that I hope that's a true fact.
Okay. Yeah.
In a way.
In a way.
Speaking of which, I found this article that was talking about, it's titled Gen Z is feeling nostalgic for a life they never knew.
Which, by the way, is called historical nostalgia, which is different than what we were talking about at first, which was personal nostalgia or emotional nostalgia. Okay. But both are a form of nostalgia. Yeah.
Okay. Early in FX's hit show Love Story, an extraordinary scene takes place. John F. Kennedy Jr. rolls up on his bicycle to meet Carolyn Bessette for their first date. She's strolling out. She tells him he could have called the restaurant to let her know he was running 20 minutes late. It's a simple moment, but one that feels unthinkable today, when they might have exchanged dozens of logistical texts, or she would have sent frenzied back and forth messages with friends debating if he's ghosting her or not. As a late 20s dater in New York City, it was like watching a slightly alien, distorted version of my own reality. A New York City with some of the same long-standing restaurants and subway stations, but marked by a very clear absence, not a phone in sight.
Yeah.
One common theme that comes up a lot is feeling overwhelmed or distracted or pulled in lots of different directions with these technologies. And part of what this writer theorizes is that there's this longing for attention and presence and fewer choices. That gets at our episode Freedom in a Box. And fewer interruptions. Gen Z, they say, is more motivated to not reverse digital technology, but to build the future in which that technology takes a backseat. So I appreciate that kind of like, they threw us a bone. It's not like we're trying to reverse the progress of the world.
The genie's out of the bottle.
The genie, perfect phrase. The genie's out of the bottle, and we don't need to just write a blank check and let that escalate into oblivion. We can build guardrails around this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting because it dovetails into the concept of nostalgia as a form of control.
Yeah.
Like when things are feeling so fast paced, our attention is split into a million different directions. We feel like we don't have control over our attention.
Yeah.
We're throwing it back to a time where people did. Throwing it back. And that in and of itself is a form of trying to like find control or purchase over what we want.
Really good word. Yeah.
Thank you.
Clay Rutledge, who you discussed before, the existential psychologist, says it turns out people can derive meaning and purpose not just from their own memories, but from sampling the shared cultural memories and experiences. And that was kind of a mic drop. Conceptually, it suggests that nostalgia doesn't fundamentally have to be about memory and personal experience, as you spoke to, like the personal
continuity
brand of nostalgia, but it can be about cultural inheritance that helps the past make the present meaningful. Yeah,
it just shows that we're searching as a society for this continuity, even as it doesn't have to be our own personal continuity.
Yeah.
Which is interesting.
Yeah, contextualizing ourselves in the grandiosity of it all. One more thing that I know you and I both saw in our research was the value of nostalgia in building social connection. A lot of our topics dovetail into social connection. So I think it's part of a series of themes when you're talking about the human condition. What did you see about that? I was seeing this work from Tim Wildschut.
Not again.
Not again. Otra vez. Who was the research partner of Sidikidish. And
we can't send them this episode.
I know.
Are they alive and well?
They get this all the time. Nostalgia enables someone to simulate the presence of others. Simulation can make you feel more connected and more loved. They basically talk about it as though nostalgia is this way of carrying your community around with you, even when you're alone, and as a method of combating loneliness. I just find that interesting. Like simulation of connection for me also hits on like gamers or like streamers. This is like endogenous, a way of achieving that comes from within.
I saw another thing that it helps people limit this in-group, out-group feeling. This was really around like teenagers and adults, but if an adult is feeling angry towards the rebellious teenagers outside making a ruckus, if they are so called to feel nostalgic about their own times as a teenager, they're less likely to feel angry toward that group or prejudice.
Nice.
So there are all these ways in which nostalgia is like, I was about to say lubricating. Yeah. Facilitating these connections between people. I have some questions for you.
Okay.
My question is, when do you feel yourself feeling the most nostalgia? And maybe that dovetails a little bit to what we were saying, like on an airplane, or maybe it talks a little bit about like your biggest nostalgia triggers, what makes like puts you into that mode. But is there a way, are there moments in your life where you feel the most nostalgia?
Smells can really trigger that for me. Another mechanism I would use when I was going through tougher times was I kept at my like meditation station in my apartment lemon eucalyptus bug spray, because I would sniff it and remember summer camp. And like that was such a time in my life where I was just blissed out, times that felt simpler. Music. I think things that draw on the senses tend to trigger nostalgia for me.
Are there times, it sounds like you were looking to use nostalgia as like an escape when you were struggling, which is, we've talked a lot about, like very common, and I think the real power and beauty of nostalgia. Are there other times that you feel like you use nostalgia subconsciously or consciously?
Sometimes I'll use that as a bid for connection with friends. Like I'll send AP a picture of us that pops up on my phone, or things that remind me of them as a way to stay connected.
Yeah. I love that social connection.
Yeah. What about you?
I was thinking about the fact that I, right before we were moving to San Francisco, started making these Instagram reels just for myself.
I love that. Yeah.
Where I would put photos from every month to a song that had been particularly popular in my mind for that month. And they were on this little burner account that only I could access. And it's now I'm putting two and two together that I started doing that right before this big life change of moving from New York City to San Francisco, and how maybe subconsciously my mind was like looking to build up this little arsenal of nostalgia hits for the change. I love watching those. I really haven't done one since last October, so I have many months to catch up on, but it's really fun. And if people are searching for hits of nostalgia, I think that's a really fun way to do it.
Love this app.
Me too. Love you.
Love you.
Thank you, Phoebe Fry, for this episode's music.
And thank you, Emily Kiernan, for the beautiful cover art.
If you like this episode, please like, share, and leave a comment. And we'll see you next week.